Welcome back, my super soul sisters. I really appreciate you joining me again today. Hey, we're going to talk about a bit more about state changing, but what I wanted to really focus on today was being consciously aware. Remember, I mentioned in the previous video about how we sometimes just automatically reach for the wrong pair of shoes. Might be drinking shoes, it might be, overeating shoes, it might be, earlier on I was talking about sex kitten shoes. That's normally when you've got, when you're getting into that deep-seated stuff, it's normally, there's a reason behind it. But 9 times out of 10, there's a reason to distract and try and soothe oneself. And what I would like to do is be aware of your trigger. What's kicking you into that? I mean, look, there's no shame in this. Everybody I know has some kind of leaning towards something. We're not perfect. We're all humans. We're only humans after all. I've got that song in my head. And it's literally, it is like, you'll binge on something, or that you're pretty good most of the time, but you might have a leaning towards one particular thing that just seems to be hooking you up, and you're just not kicking the habit. Like I used to have coffee was one of mine. I just was on coffee all the time. I do anywhere between 4 and 8 cups a day. I was absolutely wired by the end of the day. I mean, and not being able to sleep very well. I mean, really, you don't have to be Einstein to work it out. And it was because I was doing so many meetings, and then every meeting, do you know what it was? For me, I was finding that this is my Scottish in me. I didn't want to pay $4 or $4.50 for a cup of tea, which is literally tea bag and water, because I don't take milk in it. I thought, if I'm going to have to pay the same amount, I might as well actually get, a latte or something that's worth it. So I'm getting good, bang for my buck. But the downside, obviously, for that was that, it wasn't good, there was all sorts of health things, but I mean, overall, it's not great to be drinking 8 cups of coffee, guys, and then you're like this when it's sleeping time. So it was when I consciously went, right, the payoff for me at that time was I'm saving money. I'm making a better value purchase decision by having coffee than I am a cup of tea, because I literally, at the time, you could buy like a whole thing of tea bags for like $4 or $4.50, and I was like, okay, right, so in my head I justified my bad habit, if you like to call it, and invariably you have the coffee and then you have something with it, like a biscotti or a little whatever. But I mean, you have 8 of those a day, so you pack on the weight. It's just not good, guys. It's just not good. Then you put sugar inside. I mean, it all just goes out the window, doesn't it? So yeah, I did eventually. I just got to the point where I was just like, this isn't working. So identify what the trigger is. What was it? Analyze it. I looked into it, and it was like, oh, it's because I'm tight Scots person. I'm not calling all tight people, Scottish people's type, but I certainly was looking at it from a good value perspective. My father, that parrot that I was talking about, the parrot shoes, and it was like, make a wise decision, pick something where you're going to get most money for your most bang for your buck. Oh gosh, honestly, and it affects everything down to a cup of coffee. It's so absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? So identifying what the trigger was, it was like, I'm just going off. I just automatically would order a coffee. I didn't even think about it. It was rote. It was like, I was telling you about that. How easy is it to ride a bike when you first get on it? You don't know. You practice it often enough, it just becomes a subconscious routine that then runs you. It takes over your life, not the other way around. And I was like, this actually has happened. Like, I'm not sleeping well. I'm putting on weight. None of that's good for me. I'm not good on dairy. It makes us, our family, particularly congested in the nasals. cavity and everything. And so, you know, lactose free is better, but honestly, I just don't really do dairy very much, and if I do, it is lactose free, and it's now and again, not every single day, whereas I was living on it. And then of course with the sugar, that depletes your immune system, makes you weaker. You know, there's nothing great about sugar other than the taste, of course, you know, and it's highly addictive. So, you know, it, as small as it is, it's like that little, you know, man, that's that thing that's just niggling at me. And, you know, it's not these big things. This is what I was trying to say to you guys, you know, earlier on in the channel, is that quite often I get people coming in. Look, they do have big stuff. There are people with really big traumas and little traumas, you know, big T's, little T's. But there's also big stuff and then little stuff. And it's just like, sometimes it's the little stuff that just is like, oh, man, I'm so over it. Like I was with the coffee. I mean, like, what the hell? What's that all about? You know, like, it's not serving anybody. It costs you in money and health. I was overweight. I was getting sick all the time. I was snuffly. Like, you know, other than the taste and the smell, I was just like, really, the payoff. So remember, you know, you said I was talking about where we get to a point where you got to go, the benefit of not doing it outweighs the benefit of doing it. So you've got these, like, you know, you've got to stack up now consciously what the benefits are of doing all the good stuff as opposed to that. Now, even being conscious of that sometimes can't unhook somebody. So I will do a video that will be available for purchase on collapsing that, so that basically we collapse the negative and we stack so much of the positive benefit of doing it, you know, not doing it, that, you know, it's really out there. And then we just collapse this, we literally and flattens that, and then we, you know, we repeat that process. So there's a particular NLP technique that I'll show you. If you want to add that to your emotional resilience toolkit, fantastic. If you don't, then that's absolutely fine. You know, you might even be able to shift this just on a conscious level. Like, you know, half of this stuff is you're not even aware, you know, you've just done it. Like, you know, you know, I just drank coffee. Everybody drinks coffee. Who doesn't drink coffee? You know, I mean, they got coffee, entire cafes, you know, like you look at Starbucks, it is just, it started only with coffee. Like that was its thing. So, you know, in the old days, there were no such things. You go to the cafe and there was a whole raft of options, but you didn't have just dedicated, like this whole, I'm just giving the example of coffee, but, you know, now they've got like water bars, and they've got, you know, it's just dedicated to one particular thing. Chocolate bars, chocolate fondue, you know, cafes and things like that, where it's just that one. Quite often I find addiction, you know, sugar addiction, chocolate addiction, you know, like there's a cheesecake only shop here, and like we've got another one which is just chocolates. It just does different types of really delicious, you know, handmade chocolates. And honestly, there's a line out the door most of the time. They do now, you know, things like they've added like ice creams and things like that. All of it, it's sugar, it's dairy, it's that, you know, all that nurturing, it reminds you of the mother's milk kind of scenario, and people are literally lining up out the door for this, but nobody even sort of questions it, you know, like and it's absolutely fine. I mean, I love it, don't get me wrong. If I do go in there, I do tend to try and go for the low sugar or no sugar options if it's available. And, you know, I like the ginger and the fig, and, you know, things that have got natural components to it. And it's literally a square. So it's being conscious of it. It's like if you did that every single day, like I was, things would, you know, overall are not going to land up very well for you further down the line. Imagine what the health would be like if I'd carried on down that road. And that was just because I was having meetings. When you have meetings, you have coffee. They even say, you don't typically, or well, you do say, I'll meet up with you for a meeting. You tend to say, we'll catch up over a coffee, don't we? Or I'll catch up over lunch, or whatever. But it's normally I'll catch up over a coffee. You don't say, a nice herbal tea. It's just, and then they do sort of. I was finding at the beginning that they were like, really, you're going to. Really, you want a herbal tea rather than your coffee. So I've swapped it out now for green tea, and I drink a lot of that. And I probably need to, look at that too, anything in excess. I mean, it's one thing, isn't it, being aware of it. But I just would like you to just focus on something that's really small today, like little steps, get you this is how you get on your path. Is first of all, what are the shoes that are, I had my coffee shoes on and I was walking, running, because I was so caffeinated. And now it was like, no, actually I want to step out of those shoes. Those are not healthy for me. I was getting heart palpitations. I wasn't sleeping well. And how do I shift out of that into another pair of shoes over here? What am I going to swap it out with that's going to be healthy? I tried a variety of different healthy herbal teas, and then I ended up going down the green tea route because it's got a lot of I can't remember the name of it, which is also anti-cancerous, so it's actually very good for your health. So I thought, if you're going to binge anything, do something healthy. And yes, it does have caffeine in it, but I cut off around about lunchtime. Typically, if I'm having a pretty stressed day, I might have one mid-afternoon, but it's now a much better thing. It costs way less. I don't have all the heart palpitation stuff that was going on from the caffeine. I sleep a lot better. There were a whole lot of other things that I needed to work on as well around all of that. Stress with work and So, I'm not saying it'll automatically, one little thing like that will underpin everything else. Quite often I find we combine. And just changing the one little aspect, the tiny little step, is just focus on that one little thing. And I suppose that's really what I'm trying to get to today, is like, pick one thing. What is it that hooks you up, that trips you up, that goes, yep, got you again today, yay! And we're going to go, no thank you, I'm just going to step over that little log today, or that little trap. I'm not going to. And it might be that, I don't know, it's like, I was using that analogy of like the big bar of chocolate while watching TV. You might go, you snap it in half. So that if you do have the propensity of hurrying through the entire thing, that you're actually going to not do that. Or if you do it, it's only going to be half the bar tonight as opposed to the whole bar. And then, you might do that for a week, and then you might break it down to like, a quarter, and so on and so. And so you go until eventually you've weaned yourself off. Or you can be just like, there are some people like myself who just go hardcore and I just go straight off it. But do be aware, often when you do stuff like that, especially with things like caffeine, coming off sugar, these are detox, eh? So you often feel way worse because the body's now biffing the excess, trying to get the extra out of your body. And that detox can take anywhere. I sometimes, like, I had a caffeine headache after I gave up for at least 4 days. And I mean, it was quite intense. I was like, this must be what it's like to almost have the feeling of a migraine. But do be aware of that like, if you go hardcore, boof, you do get the withdrawal symptoms from it. And I mean, that's really what it is. It's just a low grade, or some would call it low grade. Some people really do suffer. But, it is a detox. So, and then be conscious of what you're going to replace it with. So this is another trap, I guess you could say, that I often find people do, is that, right, I'm not doing that anymore. And then they don't have a conscious awareness of what they do want, of what they are going to replace it with. So, they fall into a vacuum, and that just causes them to, I suppose, relapse. Classic in more of the hardcore scenarios of alcoholics. I've had this quite a lot. I often do a lot of training with people who are big drinkers on what they're going to do to replace, you know, the group of friends, the type of activities, the places that they go, because it's not just the drinking that goes. You'll find that, you know, it's the circle of people that they're hanging out with. Those are the type of friends. They're big party animals. They're the big drinkers. They're the big, you know, they'll go out to bars. So suddenly you're, you know, not wanting to go out with those guys so that you're not triggered, you know, not going to bars because you don't want to drink. So it's like, it can be a big life change, you know, and that's actually a pretty big step to take. And it's, you know, I often find that, you know, they fall into this vacuum, and they might handle for a while, and then they relapse, and then they, you know, they're back into the old drinking shoes again, you know. So it's the same sort of thing, but just on a much smaller scale. So with the little stuff. But often, you know, like I find if you make a lot of these little changes, like, you know, if you can go, right, okay, instead of like I did with the coffee, I'll have green tea. It's got caffeine, it's not as bad, but I'm not having the milk, I'm not having the sugar, and actually the catagens, I think it is suddenly coming to me now, I think, is really, really good for your system. So actually that's okay. And then you know, I might do a bit more of that initially to counter the caffeine detox from the coffee and no sugar and milk, you know, and then I'll bring it back down again. So have some kind of strategy, like I'm going to go on this path now, and this is what I'm going to do. But it is a conscious awareness of what that, you know, my trigger was, I'm going to the meeting, I automatically just order a coffee. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. If they ask me, oh no, I just got you a coffee, it's like, thank you, you know, I might swap it out, or, you know, why don't you have it, or take it back to the office for one of your, you know, your colleagues or something, and I'll just get myself something that I'm after. And then so you make those conscious decisions, and then you go into that, you know, and you do that repeatedly. It's like riding a bike. You do that over and over again, till it eventually got to the point where even the others were just ordering me green tea. They already knew, you know, like, oh, I've ordered you your green tea, it'll be ready for when you get here, you know. So it's not just, it trains you, it trains the people around you as well, to help you get on that path. So what's your little thing? If you do lots of these little corrections, you'll end up finding that it's a massive change. Like for me, it pulled out sugar, it pulled out dairy. I found it easier to give up you know, eating lots of cheese. I gave up yogurt completely. You know, I do lactose-free yogurt if I do it at all. It's just, you know, it's, everybody has their own biochemistry. I mean, if you can handle that better, then so be it. I'm not a, you know, massive fan of it anyway, so it wasn't such a big deal for me to give up. But, you know, and for the sugar side, I'm more of a salt person, so that was easy for me to let go. But if it's not, just then tackle the sugar thing, and then tackle the, you know, whatever it else that you know, you find, and just start being aware. It all starts with awareness, and then it's like, well, oh my gosh, I do drink 3 glasses of wine every night, or how about I just do 1, or I'll only drink, you know, on X amount a day. I mean, I don't know if drinking's such a great one, because, you know, if you have a propensity or for leaning or biochemical imbalance, and you have a leaning towards that, you know, once you've had the first wine, you've got no control. Away you go. And that is the problem with that, you know. That's why in AA they say, just don't touch it, just don't go there, you know. So, but if that's not you, you'll probably find that you actually can do that quite comfortably. If you can't, then maybe, you know, you might want to question that. I don't know. So just have a little think about, what is it. I would love to know if you could just, you know, put in the comments box, tell me, you know, oh, you know, my hookup is, I don't know, chocolate, chips. Potato chips is one of mine. Oh, love those. And that was harder to give up than the coffee, I think. you know, like what's your thing? And it doesn't have to be eating, it can be anything, but there could be something very little that you repeatedly do every day, and it's just like, it just niggles, you know, it's like a niggly pair of shoes. Maybe I should call these niggly shoes. And then, you know, to change your state, you have to be aware and step into those other shoes. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, please can you be so kind as to like, share, subscribe. If you're in the Facebook group, thank you so much. Maybe invite someone over. Like, you know, I do want to get the conversation going here. I know there are a lot of people in there, a lot of people watching. You know, we're getting some nice members now coming in. But I would like to see if it's okay with you just asking a question or just making a comment. I mean, you know, this is what it's about. I want this community that's there to go, oh yeah, I've got a bit of a chocolate thing going on, or I've got a bit of a coffee thing going on, and maybe you can team up and help each other be accountable, you know. So I really hope you found that useful for you guys today. And look, have a delightful day, and namaste. I'll see you again tomorrow. Anyway, thank you. Bye.